In this demo, I'm going to show you a workflow build executing. Using the out-of-the-box lab workflow template, you need to start the environment before you kick off your workflow builds. Naturally, through the customization features, you could create a workflow that started the environment. However, for this example, I'm using the build as is out of the box. I'll select the environment I specified in my build definition. I'll right-click on the environment and select Start. You can get status of the environment as it starts by watching the right pane. While normally you won't interact with the environment when it's being used by a build, you can connect to the environment to watch things execute. As the environment loads, you can refresh the status by clicking the button on the upper right corner. In this example, you see the environment here is configured to run coded UI tests, with the test agent showing it's ready for tests. For now, I'll close the environment viewer and switch over to Visual Studio to start the build. Over in Visual Studio, I'll start the workflow build. Just like any other build, I just right-click and select the Queue New Build option. Naturally, I could adjust the build settings, but I'll just accept the defaults and start the build. Once I queue up the Build Explorer opens, and, just like other builds, I can monitor the build status by watching the dynamic build report. I can click the refresh button to force the screen to update. As you can see, the workflow build spawns the standard build specified by the build definition. As I watch the build report, I can see the workflow build is waiting for the application build to complete. As things are running, I can examine the child build while it's running. Here, I can see the build details. Finally, the child build is done. I'll close the build report and go back to the workflow build. As the workflow build continues, I can see that it's getting the lab environment. And, a little further into the build, I can see it's restoring to the baseline snapshot. Now, I can see that the build is processing the deployment process I've defined. At this point, the deployment has completed. You can see the results in the report. Next, the build is taking the post-deployment snapshot. Once the post-deployment snapshot is done, the build gets ready to run the tests I've defined. At this point, I'm going to reconnect to the environment so I can watch the tests run. As I mentioned earlier, this is mostly just to show what's going on. You normally wouldn't do this, and definitely don't have to do this. I can now see the virtual machine is running tests. If you look at the test agent status, you can see the status and what test is being run. The test has started the application, a WPF-based calculator application. The test has finished adding 2 numbers and is wrapping up. Back in Visual Studio, I can see the build wrapping up. Once the build is done, I can review the details. I have easy access to the post-deployment snapshot I had the build take. I also have easy access to view the test results. When I click the link, the Microsoft Test Manager application opens and I can see the test result details. Back in the Environment Viewer, I can get easy access to the snapshots the build created. I can easily apply any of the snapshots that are mapped to this environment. In this demo, I showed you a workflow build executing.